The main part of our event tonight will be covered by our two panelists, Brooke Anderson and Nadia Matiaso. So, Brooke, would you like to just come and say hello, please?
I was going to say good afternoon, but it's actually good evening. So yeah, I'm Brooke Anderson, seeing eye dog instructor and based in Melbourne, Kensington.
Thanks, Brooke. And you've been with Seeing Eye Dogs for 4.5 years, is that right?
5 years now, just got my pin on Friday, so pretty happy about that.
Congratulations. And Brooke has a qualification in orientation and mobility and also health science, so very qualified to look after our clients and also people with dog guides. And Brooke, I believe you've adopted a family member from Seeing Eye Dogs, is that right?
Yeah, adopted her about probably 3 years ago now. She's coming up to 6 years old. So yeah, she's been a pleasure in the house.
What's your dog's name?
Her name's Astrid. So she's a female yellow Labrador.
Beautiful. And does she go to appointments with you?
She does, and she comes to work with me. She's used for dog distraction and lots of pats and cuddles in the office when people can't pat the seeing eye dogs. So she has her job, just not the role she was originally trained for.
Oh, that sounds really beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. It's always nice to know what goes on behind the scenes. And tonight we also have Nadia Matiazzo with us as well. Nadia, how are you tonight?
Good, thanks. Hi, everybody.
And Nadia, you've been a client, a Vision Australia client with the client reference group as a current member, but also been a handler of a seeing eye dog for around 13 years. Is that right?
Since about 2008, that's when I got my first dog.
And which dog do you have with you tonight? I know we can't see her at the moment.
No, she's doing her best to stay out of the picture, which is amazing for her, because usually she's in the picture. Her name is Olympia, and she's an 8-year-old Labrador Golden Retriever cross.
Oh, beautiful. I bet there's a lot of fur from her.
No, actually, she's got more the labby fur, but she has the stubbornness and the smartness and the head messing attitude of the Golden Retriever.
They're too funny. And Nadia, you enjoy advocating, creating awareness about the role of seeing eye dogs and how that helps people who are blind or have low vision. It's really important. And you're also a member of the Dog Guide Handlers Australia Association as well.
Correct. That's basically the representative group of people in Australia who are dog guide handlers.
How interesting, keeping you busy. And now a little birdie told me that both you and Brooke happen to be, should I say it, Richmond football supporters. Is that right?
You should be very proud to say that and honoured that we will let you mention our wonderful team's name.
A passionate Richmond supporter. Now, I thought it might be a little bit of fun to kick off tonight. If everybody would like to get involved and just to see who is a Richmond fan. So if you'd like to make a comment, you can pop something into the chat at the bottom of the screen, and people who use screen readers can access the chat function through the keystroke Alt-H. So you just press that and pop in. If you're a Richmond supporter, someone's already off and running with a boo just came up. I'm guessing they're not a Richmond supporter.
I feel so sorry for them. My sympathies.
Too funny. Here we go. Tigers, blah, go the Mighty Hawks, go Cats. It's all starting. Look what started here. Just a bit of fun to kick us off. And Brooke, you're also an avid fan as well. What are the odds?
Almost like we planned it.
Oh, no, too funny. We've got Bombers fans. We've got families that have got mixes of some Tigers and some others, and some people giving the thumbs up. So thanks everybody for sharing. So tonight we're going to have a lively discussion about all things dog guide mobility, and we will encourage you to ask questions throughout by popping them in the chat, and either myself or Tish will ask the questions. Someone said Collingwood. Okay, we might have to end it now. Once Collingwood comes up, all bets are off. Thanks, everybody. But before we get into the more serious parts of the evening, I just wanted to make sure we do an acknowledgement of country to start with. So I acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we work and live, and recognise their continuing connection to land, water, and community. We pay respects to elders past, present, and emerging. And as I mentioned before, this session is going to be recorded tonight. We do record all of our webinars. I know we had some questions in registration asking if people would be able to share this with colleagues or family members that might have an interest in dog guide mobility that couldn't be here tonight. And we'll be sending out the recording via email by the end of next week. As I mentioned before, if you've got any questions, you can pop them into the chat function. Again, keystroke Alt-H if you're using a screen reader. And you can also email us at saidclients@visionaustralia.org, which I'm sure a lot of you, well, some of you are already clients, so you will know that. And if you're new to seeing eye dogs, we'll be sending this information out to you next week as well. So just before we get into this lively conversation with Brooke and Nadia, I thought it'd be really interesting to ask you all a few little questions and just to test what your knowledge is about dog guides. So I'm going to ask the question. There's only 5 questions, and it would be great if you'd like to play along and just pop a yes or no answer into the chat. And then Brooke and Nadia will go through and dispel some of those myths and answer some questions. Is everybody ready? So question number 1, is a seeing eye dog like a GPS? So just a yes or no. We've got no, yes, no, no, another yes, no, yes. So it's going to be a mixed bag tonight, but I think the no's are winning at the moment. I'm not going to give away any secrets, but I'll let Brooke go through them later. We've got another go pies. I told you those pies people are trouble. So question number 2, is there something wrong with a seeing eye dog if it barks occasionally? Yes or no? Getting some no's there. Okay, seems to be consistently no's on that one. I think they've figured this out. What do you think, Nadia? Oh, 1 yes.
I don't know. I'll have to ask Olympia.
Well, let's hope she doesn't make too much noise in the background tonight. Question number 3, are seeing eye dogs allowed to play? Yes or no? Got some yeses. Yes, yes, yes. 1 no. Yeah, I think it'd be a pretty boring life if you didn't let Olivia have any fun at all, wouldn't it?
Olympia would be very upset.
So this is a really good question, and one we get asked quite a lot is, do you have to be totally blind to have a seeing eye dog? Yes or no? So lots of interesting responses there. No, 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 no. I think everyone's kind of got that one down pat. And the last question is, does a seeing eye dog tell you when to cross the road? Yes or no? No, yes, no, yes. I think that's the way the question's written is a bit tricky, isn't it? But I'm going to hand over now to Brooke and Nadia to talk about these interesting questions and just to dispel some of those myths as I mentioned before. And let's just see how you go with your answers and see whether you were in agreement with what the experts say on this one. So I'll hand over to you, Brooke, and Nadia, I'll leave it to you ladies, and off you go. Thank you.
Lovely. So what we might do, the first one that everyone likes to know is, as Danielle mentioned, is can they play? As seeing eye dogs after their work duties, when the coat comes off at home, are treated like, pets with nice social behaviour. They're allowed to run in the backyard. They're allowed to, play some tug of war and things like that. So, it's not that they're working 24/7, which is fantastic. Nadia, I'm sure your dog Olympia gets to play.
Just a little bit, sometimes a bit too much.
It is an important part to ensure that, we're ensuring that they also get some enrichment outside their work area routine as well.
Sometimes it's good for them too to just to de-stress, not distress, but de-stress in terms of if they've had a really full-on day, just to relax too.
Yeah, definitely. Everyone has their own things. You know, for me, it's coming home and a nice cup of coffee or some chocolate to de-stress, but for our dogs, they have their own motivations, which is nice. So we might head into the big one, Nadia, and I think we can talk about what is a seeing eye dog, and that will dispel some of these myths as well, if that works for you.
Absolutely. I thought it was a GPS.
Yeah, no, good question. So in terms of the dog and GPS, it's sometimes can feel that way when on known routes because the dog's traveling on them every day. But what is sort of required from our clients is that they have a solid set of orientation. And so they need to know how to get from point A to point B. We have amazing orientation mobility specialists that can help with that. And then how the dog helps is they come in as a mobility aid and they're able to sort of navigate around some of those obstacles. So what we usually say with a cane is an obstacle detector. You go down the path, they're going to detect all the obstacles that you find and that are out, whereas the dog is an obstacle avoider. For the most part, they're going to make mistakes. But yeah, they're going to go around like it's not there. And so, you know, once the dog goes from A to B, like Nadia, you probably go to work every day on the same route, and Olympia probably gets to know that pretty well.
She does.
Yeah, so she'll start to anticipate some of those turns, and that's where some people think that they're similar to a GPS. But I doubt that Nadia, if you ask her, you know, can take me to Coles in Dandenong that she's never been to before, she's not going to be able to do that.
No, but if there was a pet shop, she'd find it. Trust me.
That's more instinct and the scent that's coming from there.
Yes.
Just similar to like they can find all vets as well as soon as they go past. So in terms of some of the other things that we mentioned in the questions, you know, we mentioned, is the dog a GPS? The other big one in there, which, you know, got a little bit different answers from a lot of the audience, is do they decide when to cross the road? Nadia, I don't think Olympia looks up and says, ready to cross now?
1 bark for red, 2 barks for green, and 3 barks for amber? No.
No. So in terms of the dog's role, they are, what happens is it's a joint partnership. The dog's responsibility is to walk up and identify the curb. So that's their responsibility. The client's responsibility from there is to then assess traffic. They're responsible to say, yes, Olympia, it is safe to cross, forward. Once the client says forward, the dog's responsibility once they start entering the road is to pick up where the up curb is. So where is that up curb, you know, and so identify where the safest means of travel is. Is that what you've experienced too, Nadia?
Yes, and hopefully she won't cross the road diagonally or, you know, those kind of things. Not that she ever has, but, you know.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that comes down to then what's required. You know, what's required to get a seeing eye dog. And one of that is that we have some sound road crossing decisions. And so, you know, part of it is to say, is a client able to assess traffic? Perhaps we identify a few different other crossings because there's some tricky ones out there that even I wouldn't cross at. And so that can be some of the solutions as well. What some of the other things as well that a client can have, you know, we talk about what's required for a seeing eye dog, that orientation. So coming back to knowing for when to give the dog directions, it's pretty important. Otherwise the dog's going to continue in a straight line for a very long time. That's how they're trained. Continue in a straight line until mum or dad says left or right. And so that's important as well. The other thing that the clients have to have is the workload. So part of having a seeing eye dog is that you are heading out, you know, Monday through Sunday, you know, a couple of times a week, going to different locations. It's going to look very different for some people. Nadia, what does your sort of week look like with Olympia?
Well, in about 3 weeks, it'll be a full-on back to work week. But for the last year and a bit, it's been a bit boring for everybody because we've been working from home, obviously, because of the COVID-19 pandemic. So she's now, and we are now just starting to get out, mostly Fridays and weekends, sometimes in the evening. And she's exhausted, I have to say, after she's done a little bit of work. So I'm going to have to build up her resilience, and probably my resilience too, in terms of getting back out into the real human world.
Yeah. It's they start to form the routes that you sort of do. And so Olympia is used to go on a football games. I hear that she has her own jersey.
She has her own jersey, her own bandana, her own collar, and she gets a treat, a very small treat and a healthy treat every time Richmond kicks a goal. So she's been getting a lot of treats.
So yeah, when we talk about the workload, it's going to be very different for some people. Nadia heads to work. There are going to be some people where their workload might be that they are heading out and they're volunteering. There might be paid employment. It might be that, you're catching up with friends. It might be study. Everyone's workload is different. No one is the same. And so it's just around, the person heading out and how the dog can get that workload. So that's pretty important as well. That's not to say that if you don't have a workload, you can never get a seeing eye dog, because again, we have orientation mobility specialists that can help you build that confidence to get out and build those routes. That it might just be a long-term goal. And so by all means, we can support you in that if required. So
jump in, sorry to interrupt. We've had a couple of questions. People, I think some of our attendees are used to being on Zoom meetings, and they're a little bit concerned that they can't see everybody or the participants like they normally would. So just letting you all know, if you can only see the presenters on the screen, that's normal. That's how a webinar works. It's a little bit different format to a traditional Zoom meeting. If you can only see one person talking, you might need to change your view function that's at the top right on most screens if you're on a computer. And you can change that from gallery view, which shows everybody or the presenters, to a speaker view, alternating between the two. And we did have one question sneak in already, if it's okay if I can ask that. How many years can you have a seeing eye dog for? And is there a time limit when you have to hand them back? So, Brooke, you might like to just talk around that one. That'd be really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. So in regards to handing them back, that's two separate things. In regards to the time frame, the dogs usually go out anywhere between around the age of 2. There's going to be some different circumstances in some cases, but usually around 2. We start to have that conversation with the clients, around anywhere from 8, that, we're checking in with the clients, and on average around 10 years old, the dog, may retire. That's not to say that there are going to be different circumstances. And so some dogs may need to retire earlier. And then some of those signs are going to be that the dog's slowing down. You really need to help them up a lot. Perhaps you're getting the harness and the dog's, laying down where you used to bound over and get pretty excited. Nadia, you've had to retire a dog before. Are there other signs that the dog's told you?
Not really, Brooke, just the generally slowing down. I mean, he's now 14 or 14 and a half and still lives with me as a pet. But he was slowing down and he was having a lot of trouble getting up and down off public transport, because it does wear and tear on some dogs, getting up and down off trams, buses, going up and down stairs. They're not necessarily always used to doing that, and so much of that as dogs. So my dog definitely kind of let me know that he was done. He's still enthusiastic, but I reckon I'd probably get about 2 feet out the front gate and he'd had enough. So had to retire him when he was about 7.
Yeah. And so, they start to tell you, which is nice. Once that comes to, once that time comes, we do support you through that. It is a hard decision. Just because you retire the dog doesn't mean that you have to end the relationship with the dog. So in Nadia's case, she adopted the dog. In some cases, that's not going to be possible. And, people sometimes can't have an extra dog. Again, we support you in being able to potentially either rehome, or you might have friends and family that might, be close as well, that might want to adopt the dog too. So there are going to be different circumstances.
Okay, thanks for answering that. The questions are coming thick and fast, and they're all quite unique ones. But one of them is a fairly common question for you, Brooke, is what is the wait time for receiving a seeing eye dog, or if you've had a seeing eye dog that might be going through transition and, you know, maybe replacing a seeing eye dog or a dog guide?
Yeah, great question. It's pretty exciting. We've been able to invest quite a bit in our breeding program, which means the success of our dogs has been quite high, and therefore the wait times have been reducing. So it can be anywhere, and there's going to be obviously cases where it doesn't apply to all, but on average anywhere between sort of the 12 months, but that's reducing as well. So some people 6, some people, you know, it might be the 1.5 because there might be certain circumstances. When it comes to wait time, there are some times where, you know, the client might require a specific dog. They might want the black Labrador who's really small and maybe a female. And so it might not be, you know, the wait time might have been shorter because there might have been dogs available, but we need to get the right match. And the right match is very important. So exciting. Wait times are definitely coming down. And so, yeah, it's been fantastic to see.
Such great news. So the work behind the scenes is, and particularly after COVID, when everything was just thrown out the window in lockdown, is starting to really move through the process again, which is fantastic. Now I can read the questions, and some of them I'm like, okay. So the question is, or it's a statement, I'm not quite sure which. I once met a brother and sister who shared a seeing eye dog. Is that common? And have Brooke or Nadia, either of you, heard of that happening before?
Brooke, over to you.
No, not common. You know, it might happen in different parts. You know, dog guides are a national, international thing. We don't have it at Seeing Eye Dogs at the current time, and it's not something that we really encourage, just because everyone's going to have different circumstances. How I walk, the pace I walk, and the pace Nadia walks, and Danny, going to be very different, and we don't want to confuse the dogs. So yeah, we try and do one dog per person.
Yeah, well, I walk very slow, so yeah, that dog would have to be pretty relaxed for me. I'm sure about that. Nadia, you know, you've had Olympia. How many years was it? Was it 8 years? You said, sorry.
6 years. She was nearly 2 when she came to me. She's 8 years old.
2, and you know, you would have built such a special bond with her. Do you implicitly trust her when you're out and about?
I think you even at the beginning of my relationship with both my first dog and especially, I guess, with my first dog, the thought always went through my head, can I trust an animal? You know, it's a dog. Goodness. But you do. It just happens. And, you know, one day you kind of walking down the street and the dog will do something that'll indicate that they've picked up something, or they've, you know, taken you to a place that you wanted to go to or whatever, without you even really encouraging them too much. And you'll say, yep, the bond is there. Or they'll know, for instance, and Olympia knows for me, when I go to work, there's a Boost juice place near where I work. I always get a Boost first thing in the morning before I go to work. She will stop there every morning because she knows that I get one. And there's been times when I haven't wanted one. And there's an argument that goes on because she's like, no, we're going to the Boost because this is what you do. And it's like, no, I don't want one this morning. You know, I had breakfast. I caught up with a friend or something. I can't have that and that too. Yes, you do. No, you don't. And so there's this whole mind game that goes on. But, yeah, you do develop a bond, and you do absolutely learn to trust your dog. And, you know, there are instances where I know my dog, my first dog that I had, actually stopped me from getting off a train one time because we were on the last door of the last carriage and the train hadn't pulled up properly to the platform, and he would not get out. And I thought, okay, I'm not gonna argue the point here. There's obviously a reason. And the train went to the next station, and I walked down one door and got off, and there's a lady that got off behind me, and she said, do you know why your dog did that? And I said, I can imagine. And she said that the train was overhanging the platform, so he would not get off. So you develop that absolute bond with your dog in terms of, if there's a reason why they're not doing something that they would normally do, it's usually a good one.
Wow, thank you for sharing that very personal story too. I just got goosebumps hearing that, and I probably look a little emotional. My face gone red. I can't hide it on camera. I was just imagining I couldn't even imagine being in those circumstances. So how amazing are these dogs in helping, people who are blind or have low vision. And I'm sure there's lots of personal stories many people could share with us. I have quite a list of questions coming through thick and fast. Brooke, are you happy for me to ask a couple more before you continue talking?
Yes.
Okay, so wondering if high school students access seeing eye dogs, or is it only older clients? There's two parts. And the other one is, do schools allow seeing eye dogs on their premises?
Yeah, I really like this question. So do schools even allow us seeing eye dogs on premises?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. It's an access issue if they're not. So the seeing eye dog is allowed into all public places. So if you can go as a public patron, then the dog can go as well. There are places that the dog can't go because the public can't go. So that's the main thing to know there. In regards to high school students accessing seeing eye dogs, the answer is yes. We've been able to train, quite a couple here and there, and it's definitely an area that we'd like to, expand in if the client has all those eligibility things that we had talked about before. And so I think it's also important to know in terms of, for some people, it might not be that the dog is the option for them. And I think that the part in terms of what Nadia was coming on is what I'd like to do is inform people what are those benefits and, the drawbacks, because I think that's one of the questions that might be is, when do I get a seeing eye dog and how do I know if a seeing eye dog is for me? And that will come down to the benefits and some of the detractions that some people have to weigh up. Is that okay if I go into them?
Yeah.
Perfect. So Nadia mentioned some of them before. Drop-offs, definitely one. So they can let you know when there's stairs up and down. They can tell you the drop-offs. So train platforms, the dog's going to identify curbs, known locations for Nadia, boost juice. And so, they can help target seats, doors and things like that, as well as, known locations as well. Some of the other benefits for the dog, Nadia, do you have more from Olympia before I can talk about this forever?
She has become so cluey, little munchkin, that she will actually find my seat at the MCG.
Nice. So known locations. She's pretty clued on.
And that's like amongst, however many thousand people go to the MCG to watch that wonderful team. She will find the right gate. She will find the escalators. She will find the exit that I need to get to the ground. And she will find the seat that I sit in. And God help anybody who's in that seat is all I can say.
Yeah, they do. They really help with those known locations, and they love it. It's part of the job. They're part of the reward as well. They can help with straight line. They can help with sometimes that visual fatigue. So, now you're sharing some of that. So, it doesn't mean that you can switch off. There are other things now that we have to be aware of. And those things can be some of the limitations to the dog. You can't get home and fold up the cane. Nadia, before we got on, was telling us that it was Olympia's feed time. You have to remember the feeding, the watering. They're not robots, so unfortunately they do toilet, and we do have to clean that up too. So for some people, that's a detractor. And so they can be some of the things that, we can consider as well when applying. They are dogs as well. They're going to have things that, they see a dog across the road and they want to say hi. But, you might need to say, hey, Olympia, straight on. We're heading to Richmond playing today. And so we do need to be aware of what our dogs are doing too. So there are a couple.
I went to a market on the weekend, a farmer's market, and there were many, 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 many dogs, pet dogs, on lead and off lead. And the distraction that it was for her for the first little while was, reasonably high-ish. But once she realised that she was working, that, that dogs weren't, she was actually pretty amazing, just getting me around the market and having so many dogs coming up and wanting to speak to her, and getting through crowds. Brooke, I guess one of the things for me has been the big advantage for me has been getting through a crowd, peak hour crowds, through railway stations, Flinders Street at 5 o'clock in the evening. Many of us might have experienced walking through that premises, it's a nightmare sometimes because people are going everywhere. And for a dog to be able to get you through that with as little interruption to your walking and to your direction that you're traveling is absolutely incredible.
Yeah. So Danny, I'm sure there's plenty of other ones, but I wanted to touch on that. That's some of the questions.
Yeah, that's really good. And I know that Flinders Street crowd is just shocking. So I hope people make way for you with the dog, or do they just box you in, Nadia?
It's a variety. Sometimes they're so, I need that train. They're so fixated that really the world could be in front of them and they'll just, try and get past it. So and other times it's really good. So
that's good then. At least people are nice sometimes. One of the questions I've got here, I think people think that seeing eye dogs have superpowers to some extent. And the question I've got here is, are seeing eye dogs different from other assistance dog providers? And I think, Brooke, that's probably a question you're quite passionate about, I would imagine.
Passionate about a lot of things dog and client, but so that one, so seeing eye dogs and other therapy roles, basically we train for a purpose. Our purpose at Seeing Eye Dogs is to train dogs for people who have low to no vision. And so when we come back to that question about the myth at the start, you don't have to be totally blind to get a seeing eye dog. We do have to have low vision, and there is a certain point where too much vision can also then impede the dog's work. So that's part of the assessment, is to see what are the functional limitations that you have in your mobility, and can we help with a seeing eye dog. And in some cases we place a lot of hope that the dog might, but there may be things that we can discuss as well. But our purpose is to train dogs who can guide. There's going to be other therapy roles, but that's not something that we are doing at this current point.
Thank you for that. And this is a really good question. Everyone's very excited because they keep putting questions within questions. So the first part of this question is, I'll read you all of it, and then if you can just take a moment to answer would be great, is do you provide further training provide further training to clients after the dog graduates? And for example, if the dog is also, there are kind of a couple of questions in here. So if the dog's learning something new or the client's routine changes, so what's the involvement of the Seeing Eye Dogs organisation supporting those clients?
Yeah, good question. We want to go on the journey with you guys, basically. And that's going to look very different per person. There are going to be some clients who, are wanting us there for the orientation for a new workplace. And that's something that we would definitely supply as well. In regards to what we do outside of training, our standard is that we do see you at least a minimum of a year. But at any point that client picks up the phone and says, hey, look, I've got a little bit of an issue, we can support them. We'll always try to give them some verbal feedback, because there's going to be some times where, they give us a ring and they go, oh, Brooke, my dog is barking at the front door. I've had that one before. And it's because the dog bed was right at the front door. And so we moved it. And within 2 minutes we were able to solve it. But there are going to be times where we have to come out as well. So in short, we do support. We see you a minimum of once a year, but if the client needs more, we will be there.
Okay, that sounds great. And with the clients, is there a restriction in ages? Someone was wondering if you have to be over 18 to have a dog guide.
Yeah, historically, and I think that on a lot of the current sites, it has a minimum age of something around 16 or 18. It's something that we're looking at and being able to assess on an individual basis. So age shouldn't preclude you, but what should happen is we can go out and do an assessment, see whether or not, that you're eligible, and age shouldn't be a factor of that. If you are able to show that you have the workload, you're able to care for the seeing eye dog and things like that, then it would, at least in our sort of view, that age shouldn't be the thing that we go, well, you're actually really suitable, but hey, look, sorry, you're 15, you don't qualify. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, definitely. And then, so, people are always wondering about costs involved with seeing eye dogs. What about, vet care and those ongoing kind of responsibilities of looking after your dog? Or even Nadia, you might be able to answer that one.
I was going to say, where are the Nadia questions?
Well, I just thought that one was for Nadia. I've got two in there, and the other one, Oh, one of those curly ones. A taxi is allowed to refuse a fare with a dog guide.
I'll give you that one, Nadia.
There you
No.
go.
Just no.
Yeah, no, exactly right. No, they're not, are they?
No.
So
They're
again,
getting better at it.
yeah,
Yes.
it comes
There's
down
more
to
awareness.
Yeah, it comes down to that public transport. So taxis are a public transport, and therefore the public are entitled access, and therefore our seeing eye dogs are. So if you ever have the question, can seeing eye dogs or guide dogs go there? Ask your question if the public can go. A good chance is the dog can go too.
That's a good example. And what about those costs, Brooke? Is that something that you could tell us a little bit about, or just top line on that one?
Yeah, so the cost involved in a seeing eye dog after they graduate with you, the cost of caring and the maintenance of the dog does become the handler's responsibility. We do ask that because they're working dogs, they go to the vet every 6 months. And so the vet costs there the client would incur. Then there's the food. Our dogs love food. And so, yeah.
Well, they're Labradors and Golden Retrievers are always hungry, aren't they?
Oh, they'll tell you they are with those nice eyes of them, especially straight after they've eaten too. But yeah, the vet costs. And then if you want to buy any toys and beds and stuff like that, that's something that might need to also be factored in.
And can seeing eye dogs make recommendations for where to get the access to those kind of things?
Yeah, so we do have a few things for clients. So in our we do provide the client an initial equipment package. So those things aren't required from the handler to buy. They include things like your bed, your water bowl, your food bowl, things like that set you up for the dog. And so therefore after that, if you want to buy extras, that's when the costs are involved. And so, yeah, they can be found at most leading pet stores online, wherever people want to go.
So all those trendy little collars and all those Richmond bandanas and beanies and all those things, they're for your own cost, I imagine, Nadia.
Yes, and 23 chew toys that she killed over COVID.
Wow, that must be a record. I don't know if anyone in the session tonight has actually got a dog guide that might have gone through a chew toy. Can they beat 23 during COVID? Let's see if we get any responses. Another question I've got for you, Nadia, is the person has 2 cats and 2 dogs in their household, and we're wondering if it would be appropriate to get a dog guide, or inappropriate, whichever way you want to look at it.
I think I could start off answering that, but what I know that happens is often the seeing eye dogs will come and look at your situation in terms of whether you have other pets and advise on that basis. So when I got my first guide dog, I had 5 cats.
5? Did you say 5 cats?
I had 5 cats.
Does that make you one of those crazy cat ladies?
Yeah, it does.
I quite like cats, so I don't mind, but 5's a lot.
And we also had a dog, and I actually, my mum had just moved back to our family home, and so I chose to give my dog to my mum as a companion, but she probably would have got on well with my first dog. So there's a bit of work done in terms of introducing the new dog, the working dog, to current pets. I know that seeing eye dogs in their kennels, they have cats, so that the dogs get used to being around cats. And of course, a lot of the dogs grow up in kennels or with puppy carers that have other dogs and cats. That's right. So therefore, a lot of them are pretty used to having other animals around.
That's right. Cats, rabbits. I think we've had mice, chickens, horses, camels. There's all sorts of animals that we've heard of that our carers have socialised the pups with before they become seeing eye dogs. Nadia, I've got another question for you, specifically for you. Did you have to do any preparatory work in order to be ready to have a dog?
Yes. So firstly, I had to think a lot about whether in fact I wanted a dog and what that responsibility meant. So for me, there was a lot of thinking and a lot of soul searching. I used a white cane before I had a dog. I felt I was pretty independent. Do I really need a dog? Do I need something that I have to clean up after, feed, water, groom?
Yeah.
buy food for, all of those things. And clearly I made the decision that yes, I did. And also prior to getting the dog, you undergo an assessment with, in this case, a seeing eye dog instructor, and they come out and they talk to you about what do you do? What do you do on an average day? So for me, it was like I get up early, I go to work, I go to meetings, I come home. Do you do anything on the weekend? Yes, I go visit friends, I go out to eat, I go to the football, I go pretty much, to the movies, to the theatre, all of those kind of things. So they then, talk to you about the things that you do in trying to make a good match. They also do a walk with you, and this is the fun bit because they get to be the dog holding on to one end of the harness, and you get to be the dog, the handler holding on to the other end of the harness. So that's more about working out what your mobility skills are, your walking pace is, all of those kind of things. And that's all also part of the matching process. So you go through all of those things. You also have to, I guess, look at your house. Do you have fencing around your house? Do you live in a place that has somewhere for the dog to go potty? And if not, where is your nearest potty place? There's a fair bit of prep work. It's not that difficult. It's all pretty much common sense, but there is a lot to think about. It's not like, oh, I'm going to go and buy a new jumper. It's a real thing, and it's an animal, and it's I guess, I don't like referring to my dog as a tool, but frankly, my dog is a tool that I use to get around, and I'm blocking her ears when I say this because she'll be most offended. But it's from getting safely to point A to point B. If I can't provide her with all the confidence and the skills, and to keep the skills that she needs to do that kind of job, then that could be problematic.
Thank you for sharing that. You can see everyone that Nadia is very passionate. I love her when she shares her stories. It's great. Brooke, I've got a question for you. So it's kind of along that preparatory line, but someone was asking that, does a client require cane training for a year before an assessment?
Yes, so the time period I don't think is important. What's important is the need for a primary mobility aid. So, and the functional impacts that someone has. And so if you have, coming back to sort of a point I made before, if you have impacts because of your vision, and a primary mobility aid is going to be, the thing that keeps you safe. And the primary mobility aids in our case are a cane or a dog. So when I say primary mobility aids in our world, that's what they refer to.
Sure. And, everyone's different. So, the team goes and assesses the client's eligibility for the best mobility aid as well. So it may be a dog, it might be a cane, it might be IRA, whatever it is. I don't know the list. I'm sure you know better than me, but definitely look at solutions to helping them on their own journey and where they're at that time.
Yeah, definitely. And we're happy to have that conversation. So even if you're thinking about it, don't feel like giving us a call and wanting to inquire means that you have to go through the application process. If you want to ring us and say, hey, look, this is my current situation, these are my concerns, this is what I'm doing, we can have that conversation. We're not here to pressure anyone into getting a dog. We're here to talk to you about what you're currently doing, how a dog may be able to help. And so that way you have the information to make the decision. We're not going to make the decision for you. We're going to help you and give you the right information.
Yeah, I've got one question that's just come up, and I thought it was quite an important one to ask. And the participants asked, what if you don't do a lot due to not being confident about going out on your own, but would like to have a guide dog or dog guide as a companion, as well as using the dog to help get around?
Yeah, good question. So
yeah, really nice question.
Yeah, what we can do is, again, coming back to something I said earlier, is we can support you on that journey. And that might mean, potentially engaging with some orientation mobility specialists. They're going to help you with the confidence. Confidence usually comes from, you know, getting out there and them talking through the skills and knowing, you know, what landmarks are around and when you cross and where you're going and knowing your area. The dog, if you're not confident, although we might feel like it may give us that confidence, sometimes again, it can, you know, if the dog makes a mistake or, you know, the dog, you know, continues in that straight line, you're not able to give it directions, can actually then, you know, potentially not be of assistance. And so we want you to, you know, have that confidence. We can help you with some orientation mobility, and then the dog might be that long-term companion. And so we can support you through that whole journey. And it's going to look very different for, you know, a lot of people.
Thanks for explaining that. And so when someone's been matched with a Seeing Eye Dog, and then the Seeing Eye Dogs, you know, organization, Seeing Eye Dogs, so many ways you can say Seeing Eye Dogs, you know, continues to provide support with that client after the training, what happens with the client? Because often, you know, in the current situation, they might come into Kensington and get training on site. But then when they've gone back to their home, wherever that may be throughout Australia, how do we support them then?
Yeah, so I might just come back to that training element, just because you know, a couple of schools will get you to come to centre, as you mentioned. At Seeing Eye Dogs, we're very much into tailoring our program for you. And so that might mean that in some circumstances you're not able to come to centre, or you might prefer to train from home. And so that's something that we can definitely do with you. It doesn't mean that you have to. We can, from day one, come to your house, you know, issue the dog in your house and train with you from that location, so you're very familiar as well. And so it's not essential for you to come to us. So yeah, I just wanted to bring that up as well. Yeah,
that's great. I think we probably got through most of the questions. I just want to give you and Nadia a bit more chance to chat. It's already 7:20, and everyone's so keen with all their questions.
So I think
I'll leave it to you just to have a little bit of a chat, and just letting everyone know, if we miss your questions tonight in the webinar, we'll certainly follow them up with you as well, so we can email you too. So sorry, Brooke, handing back over to you.
That's all right. So we talked about, you know, how to apply, get in touch. We can talk if you want. We talked about eligibility, training, you know, usually 2-3 weeks. Follow-ups, again, we do get in contact. You can as well, just because there might not be things that you want to potentially work on related to the dog. We are very expanding what we can do with you. So what that means is, you know, some clients are really interested in clicker training. Previously, you know, that wasn't really done with dogs. You know, it's mainly only in the last maybe 10-ish years. And so you might not have had a dog that has been clicker trained. Doesn't mean that we can't come out and do that with you. We can teach that dog, you know, how to respond to the clicker in a very, you know, 10-second explanation of what the clicker is. You know, it makes a nice click sound. For puppy carers on here, you say yes, we click with a clicker. The dog then knows we give them a treat, and we can teach them some amazing skills with that. And so it can be very handy for even clients if they're interested in knowing. And so, yeah, a follow-up doesn't have to be our standard walk around the block and come back. It can be, you know, pretty exciting and teaching you some new skills as well.
That's great. One quick little question that I am sneaking in. Do clients get a discount? Everybody loves a discount. One of the big questions. Do clients get a discount at Pet Barn and Green Cross Vets?
I'll take this one. I waited for a little bit. I'm like, well, I might check with Nadia, but so Green Cross Vets, yes. So we have Green Cross Vets offer us a free consultation. So usually when you walk in the door, the vet slaps on that $70 to $100 price tag. Green Cross waive it for us. And then they also offer a discount on any of the services that might come because your dog might have an ear infection or be, you know, limping or something like that. So they do offer discounts there too. And I might need to check with the Pet Barn one.
That's good. Thank you. I just, I don't want to keep your time, because I really love the interaction between you both. Is there any other stories, Brooke and Nadia, that you'd like to share as part of our interactive chat tonight?
Nadia?
I think for me, the main thing I guess I want to impart is what the difference, I guess, is working with a dog and working with a cane. For me, like I said before, I felt that I was a pretty good white cane user, but I was slowing down my walking speed to accommodate other people who weren't looking out for somebody using a cane. And so it was taking me a long time to get from point A to point B. And it was also meaning that I'd often get to point B very stressed because I was worried about people tripping over my cane, people not seeing me, sometimes actually even breaking my cane. That's happened a few times. And that the difference that you have with having a dog is that those things tend not to happen, that the dog will, as Brooke said, avoid the obstacle, and it will see people as an obstacle. So it'll try and find the quickest way from point A to point B around the obstacle, diagonally across the crowd, whatever it is, to get to where you need to go. The other thing is that whilst I was concentrating a hell of a lot while using my cane, I was wondering, well, do I have to concentrate so much when I'm using a dog? And the answer for me was yes, but in a different way, because you still need to be aware of where you are in the environment. You still need to have those listening skills or those orientation skills so that you're not going to end up at the pet shop when you actually don't want to go to the pet shop in a totally different direction, whatever it might be. So, but it's a different kind of concentration, and I've actually found that kind of concentration is way less stressful for me. For some other people who have dog guides, it may actually be just as stressful. But for me, the positive for me in getting a dog has been the fact that I have been able to do a lot more with a lot more confidence because I felt comfortable with my dog, and because I know that the dog will listen to me when I tell the dog to walk by boost sometimes, but that I know that I'll get from point A to point B, and often I will try things that I would never have tried with a white cane, like going to the MCG by myself and meeting friends, where I normally sit. I would never have done that with a white cane, and yet other people who might use a cane will say, yep, I can do that, and that's totally fine. It's up to each person, but for me, I would never have even envisaged that I could do that. So they're the kind of things for me that have really, I guess, impressed me about having a seeing eye dog.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. I'm feeling a bit sad because we're getting close to time. We've had such an interactive audience tonight. We've got 5 minutes to go. So Nadia and Brooke, I've got one more question. Would you mind if I ask that before we wrap up? Would that be okay?
Of course.
Okay, you don't know what the question is yet. So I have to read the question and then I've got to interpret it. So give me a moment. So someone has a seeing eye dog, and they're saying their dog does not use moving walkways or escalators, only steps or lifts. And the person was wondering if all seeing eye dogs are now supposed to be taken on these moving walkways. Okay, so the person is a bit worried that the dog might get injured or hurt its paws or maybe get a little bit jammed at the end. So I suppose they're just being thoughtful of the dog and the experience. But Brooke, how would you advise on that one?
Yeah, I saw that one in the chat thread. So in regards to escalators, we would not get you to do escalators if you didn't feel comfortable. So just because your seeing eye dog doesn't mean that we say that you have to. So if you prefer to take the stairs and the lift, go ahead. In regards to all seeing eye dogs trained on the escalators, we do train all the seeing eye dogs on escalators. Some may not want to go on them though, and we never push a dog that doesn't want or chooses that's not something for them. Part of our assessment though is to ask people whether they require escalators. And so coming back down to that matching consideration is we would ensure that if you needed them, we matched you to a dog that could do them. The training, we do it in a safe way. The dogs are safe. We teach them how to get on and off. So, you know, that's something that is part of the training process for them. So I can appreciate that some people aren't entirely comfortable on them. Again, we have an amazing indoor mobility center at Seeing Eye Dogs, and we have a escalator that's indoors. And so if that's something you want to build a comfortable, get comfortable with, we can use that facility, or we can come out and sort of provide that at a local shopping center or something like that to get you comfortable before even doing it with the dog. So by all means, if it's a goal, we can work with you.
That's
Brooke, can I
fantastic.
jump in with
sorry,
a
go,
really
Nadia.
quick story?
Sure.
When I got my Seeing Eye Dog, one of the things that she would not do would be using the down escalator. She would go up the escalator, but not down the escalator. So when my instructor, when I met Olympia, they said to me, okay, you've got a decision to make. I wanted to use escalators and I wanted my dog to be able to use escalators. They said she'll do everything else. She's a really smart dog, and she is, but she will not go down the escalator. And so I made the decision that I would deal with that, and I would accept that as one of the things that was just about her and that she wouldn't do. As we got bonded and as time progressed, one day I was coming out of a train station that had an escalator, and suddenly I'm thinking, no, wait a minute, where is she going? And so I thought, let's see where she goes. And suddenly I find myself walking on the beginning plate of the escalator. And it was going to be a down escalator because there was no other up escalator. And so one day, about 6 months or 8 months into our relationship, she just decided that she would go down the escalator.
Nadia, I love that as a sum up, because I think that in summary, working with a Seeing Eye Dog is a partnership, and there are going to be times that you need to support your dog, and there are going to be times that the dog then steps up and supports you. And I think that that's an amazing end and sum up.
Oh, yeah, thank you so much for sharing that story. You've always got the best stories to share, Nadia. So I'm just going to wrap it up because it's 7:28, and as always, we like to keep these on time. And we really appreciate everybody for coming along tonight and allocating the hour to learn more about dog guide mobility. But in particular, I'd like to thank our special panelists, Brooke and Nadia, also for giving up her time to come along tonight. So thank you to both of you.
That's okay. I'm pretty proud of us for staying on time, Nadia.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure, and it's been amazing that we've been able to keep the time. Be impressed, Danielle.
I know. Well, I'm running a tight ship here, but I just wanted to, and also to thank our co-host Letitia, who's also there on the sidelines looking after the chat for us, which has been great. But I just wanted to finish off by letting everyone know that with regards to NDIS clients, because we didn't get a chance to touch on that, if you're an NDIS client, you're eligible for an allocation of funds administered in your NDIS plan to account for some of the costs associated with having a Seeing Eye Dog. So if you've got more questions about some of the things talked about tonight, we didn't get a chance to talk about it, please feel free to email us and someone will follow us up. Just a little reminder, we'll send this recording link out via email end of next week as well. And we've got a few goodies coming up. So we've got the Seeing Eye Dogs Masterclass series. The next one will be in April. We're just finishing up March now. Caring for my aging Seeing Eye Dog. So that's a really important one. And I think we touched a little bit on this tonight. What else do we have? We've got any questions that you have about tonight's webinar. As I said, the Masterclass series, NDIS, suggestions for future topics are always welcome. Any feedback? And also, if Seeing Eye Dogs in the application process, if you'd like some more information about that or what having a dog guide might mean to you, you can also contact us. So we've got two ways for you to connect. One is via our 1300 number, which is 1300 847 466. And just to ask to be put through to Seeing Eye Dogs. And the other way is via email, which is sedclients, SEDCLIENTS @visionaustralia.org. Now it's 7:31. I've just gone over my target, but I've got some lovely comments just to quickly finish up. So someone said my first webinar with yourselves and hope to attend some more. Someone said thank you so much to our panelists. What else have we got there? Thank you, ladies. This was very informative. Someone said that they love the way you present, Nadia. So that's always nice to hear.
Thank you. Check is in the mail.
And I think, you know, Nadia's sense of humor and a big smiley face. Thank you. I always learn something new. Thanks for the webinar. It was fantastic. Thanks so much. It was awesome. So it's nice to finish up with some really positive comments and some great feedback. Thank you again, everybody, for attending tonight, and for our wonderful panelists. It's been a great experience. I really enjoyed hosting tonight, and we'll look forward to seeing you again for the next webinar, which will be in May. Yeah, we're holding them bi-monthly. So watch out for newsletters and information about what's happening at Seeing Eye Dogs. And have a great night, everybody. We'll see you all soon. Thanks for coming along.
Vision Australia.
Blindness,
Low vision.
Opportunity.
Vision Australia logo. 3 navy blue ovals linked together diagonally within a bright yellow rectangle.